that has seen how this revolution started. I remember the first thing was hisi time poa ya kupost. For instance, I work with StanChat right now, and I really appreciate them because we didn't have to tell them. They saw and they were like, you guys, you can do whatever you want to do. You understand? So for me, it's about if you're a sane person, you can see that the pressure and the force is something that you cannot run away from. It will catch up with you. So I think we've had, corporates that have been really understanding and supportive, and we haven't been blacklisted yet. We haven't been sent that you're out of work email. So they have understood. And today, I just want to talk about the power of social media as well. Huwa wanasema msanii ni kioo cha jamii. Every time. Personally, when I started doing music, I was in Maseno University, and during the holidays, we'd go to Kenya National Theatre. And we had something, Nadia, if there's any creative here, they know PAL, Poetry After Lunch. And what most people don't know, I started out as a poet. And I'd go there, if I do a small, maybe small poetry, I'd have other guys just listening to them. And what these people would talk about is the social injustices. It meant that the time wasn't then. It's a process, it's a journey. We had begun that journey of going to Poetry After Lunch. You're listening to people talk their truths. Talk about mimi nimetoka Kibera, these are the problems that I have seen. But now it has come a place whereby now we can retaliate that on social media. I can tweet and say, guys, MCSK needs to be held accountable. We can say PRISC was given the license to collect on behalf of the other CMOs. Public participation, has it happened? We are the artists, we are the ones who are paying for these people. And that is another conversation that has been held for so long, ever since artists before me found a problem there. I have found a problem there. And I am not going to leave, because at the end of the day, there's a time gonna reach I'm not able to dance on stage as I am dancing right now. So it is, as I said before, it's accountable governance. We have to hold each and every person accountable. Kila mtu. Now, to the ladies, maybe when you are wamechaguliwa, ama they have been given a position, wasiende wakatuaibisha. We've seen the likes of Karen Nyamu, more of a socialite rather than a leader. There are so many deserving women. I am sorry to say that. It's a stray bullet, but it's the truth. There are so many deserving women who are intellectual, who are smart. We don't need to know your personal life. What have you done for the girl child? For the longest time, women have fought. You're given a position, and all we can talk about is your personal life. She really needs to check herself. Yes.
All right. Thanks. Maria, if anyone engages with politics, and we look at this in this sense, that it would be foolhardy for anyone to think that the political class is going to walk away from this and surrender and say, okay, you guys have won, fantastic, we're out. Okay? That is not going to happen. They're going to rely on what they do best, which is politics. And I suspect this is what's going to happen in the next 2-3 years. From where you sit, with all these issues that we need to solve, and there are many, right? And they're serious. Parliament and constitutional, two-third gender rule not anywhere being affected. There are many things on the priority of this list we just don't know and don't have. Give us some advice. How should we look at these questions that we exercise our minds and say we should have priorities, bare minimums, and go forward? Because the political class will have that. And this is a long battle, as Reverend Goya has told us.
Yeah, so I think the first thing, we need to appreciate that the country has changed. It's not business as usual. So there's been a shift in the minds of Kenyans. Whether they're saying it or not, whether they're organizing or not, it's present. And we have to seize the moment. So where do our leaders come from? They come from within us. Today we'll sit here and say, hey, James unatosha mboga. Where tutakuchagua? But what happens? What follows after? Hey, Mhesh. What do we say? Toboka. Kakitu kalanch. Mhesh. That's the problem. Our politics, our governance is transactional. And the minute I give you a 50 bob, a 100 bob, a 200 bob, I'm done with you until next time. So this shift has to be literal. Like, we can't just talk about it, we have to live it, we have to talk it, we have to walk it. The fact of the matter is, politicians are smart. Even the ones we say are uneducated are street smart. So they will just look at what is trending and jump on it. And if we've decided that going forward, we're serious about our governance, we're serious about who gets into office, how the hell does somebody get elected while they're in jail? How do you get elected after shooting somebody dead? And DCI put out a notice that they're looking for you, and you get elected. So what Nadia, what Mike Mushiri, what other artists and individuals and human rights activists have been doing needs to be amplified. Take civic education very literally, because there are people who think that there's an MP, I think he's called Kamala, in Western. He was telling his people that sasa mjue tunamaliza maneno ya CDF, sasa musikuje kwangu kuniomba. Because that's the way things are done. You come, you ask me for 300 bob, sawa, sawa. And he'll not perform, he will not build that road. I mean, nothing will get done. So we need to amplify the voice of civic education. I think that's very important. People need to understand why electing an MCA is very important, because that's a person who's closest to you in terms of resources that have been devolved to the county. Why a political party is not more superior to an individual who's representing you at the ground. It's important for us, and I think you've debunked this, that tribalism is no longer a factor. And as long as it remains a non-factor, we are ahead. So mtu wetu, that politics is gone. So if we keep at it, and if we keep agitating for the very things that we're actually talking about, governance, accountability, transparency, right from the elective positions. And I think this is an opportunity for young people. You can get elected without being on a party. Yeah, but remember, if our institutions, and this is a very critical point for me, James, if our institutions are not safeguarded, today our institutions are failing us because they are at the mercy of the executive. Why? Because the executive pays. They're the ones who provide a budget. So everybody who's in a position of leadership, a position of governance, a position of representation is swallowed by the system. And we've talked about the system. When you get there, you're given, the first thing you're given as a chairman is an allowance, sitting allowance. The next thing, mkubwa unataka gari gani? And that thing gets to your head and you forget why you got there in the first place. So let's fight for our institutions. Let's get our institutions back. Let's make sure anybody who's nominated to serve on those institutions is a credible person, and they can always pass the suitability test that is Chapter 6. Remember, in Kenya, we don't have an absence of laws. Steve Wanjiru talked about the conflict of interest bill that is currently in Senate. That bill, it's not that we don't have laws that could have jailed people for conflict of interest. Right. What we've had is deliberate missteps in the application of the law. So the unification of these laws is important. And that's why when you said that, what will we do going forward? Because people will get tired and they'll go back to doing what they need to do. Let us just hold people to account. Start by recalling. And I like that process that people are actually taking now. And let's keep whoever is in office accountable. Let's keep them on their toes. Let's get involved in the budget making process. Do we know when the cycle starts? Because it's about to start again in September.
Right.
So that eternal vigilance. It's a lot to ask for the citizenry, but I think it's a price we are ready to pay, and it's been obvious from the reasons.
I want to get one comment from Sylvia, who's been waiting for like an hour. Sylvia, if you can have your minute now, what is the thing that you want us to do next? Do you have Sylvia?
Yes, good afternoon.
Go ahead.
I'm speaking as a layperson that according to how things are right now, we understand that a government is formed by three arms. I think we have three arms of the government. But as things are now, it's like the parliament and the executive have merged. So we do not have oversight. The legislature, people like the MPs are supposed to represent the people who voted them to go there and do the legislation. But even if they do the legislation, is it favoring a common citizen? Everything they are doing is about them. So I was asking, I'm speaking as a layperson, so just pardon me, and if at all I'm wrong, just try to enlighten me more. As a layperson, under Article 1 of the Constitution, can I say clause number 2, which says that people can exercise their right, is it their right, directly, or can I say the leadership or something? Like we can exercise our power directly. Now, how do we do it legally? Because right now, the parliament is there, but it's like we are the ones who are doing the job. We are here on the streets. We are the ones providing oversight. We are the ones pushing for better legislation. So how do we go about it? Because all this mess is because whoever we put in power messed us up. This also has come about because of the micromanaging, the executive micromanaging the other two, trying to micromanage the other two arms of the government. How do we get ourselves into this?
Okay. All right. Thank you. I think just an important question, and maybe I'll start with you, Mary, then we'll go to Goi. This idea that you elect people to get to office and they decide that we know best, all right? In fact, you become very clever all of a sudden, and I know what you want. And I think we saw that on this finance bill, that MPs literally told everyone that you guys have no point whatsoever. We know best and we'll do what we want. How do we stop that from ever happening again? That a person who gets elected becomes truly a servant, not our lords?
I think it just goes back to the same thing of public participation, because what happens is that we have to accept that once we elect a leader, we are expecting that they will go and deliver on the mandate. So the issue of, did we elect a party or an individual? Because usually they wave. You know, you're told, this one got in kwa sababu ya wave. And the people were with the wave. So that's why some of the MPs had the temerity to tell us, it's not you, it's the party. It's not you I'm accountable to, it's the party. So the first thing is, because you cannot recall an MP until they've been in office for 2 years, is just to keep a record of it, I guess. Because now, constitutionally, you cannot recall before a certain period. But the fact of the matter is that the way we have seen participation being carried out with creation of ChatGPT, breaking down the information, that's the first thing. Breaking down the information, ensuring it reaches people. Petitions are online. It's easier now to find people, to bring people together. Before you had to be, moneyed to do these things. Right. So it's much easier now.
Okay. Reverend Koi, how do we make our politicians actually work for us? How do we stop the arrogance, the kiburi that they have, that because I'm in office now, I do whatever I want?
The message has already been sent. Yeah. The message has already been sent. And what I'm very happy to see is now legislators now are being very penitent about what they're what they're doing. That's one. But then the second one is just adding what she has just said in itself. There are ways we can just keep our legislators accountable. One is just, there's a roll call in Parliament. So when you go in Parliament, you have to, sign in. And so we need to be able to see, just the way when we're in school, you sign a roll in itself. Were you present? And that information is available to any person in the public. We know one legislator now who has barely been in Parliament for 1.5 years or so, that it's now out in the public space. And then thirdly, it's being able to get access to your member of Parliament and demanding access to your member of Parliament as often as you can. Like you have a constituency office. How often is this member of Parliament in their office? And so that is another place where you can go and demand to be able to see them. What are your office hours at the constituency office? That is where you can meet them at their local office. And if you are a big office, the government has given this MP or legislator the resources to cover the entire, like North Hall. That's a huge constituency. But there are different constituency sections where you can meet your legislator. So those are some of the things that come to mind. Yeah.
Steve.
Yes, I think, sorry. I was thinking, as I was talking, I was thinking about how we gauge our MPs' performances. And we diverted it to the duties and the responsibilities that are with the ministers, cabinet. Those are the parameters most of the time we gauge when we are voting for a member of parliament. Amejenga barabara ngapi? Ameweka mashule ngapi? Is that the job of a legislature?
No.
Because that has been the parameter for voting. So I think even as we move forward in this conversation, and as I address your concern, we need to do an inward reflection as a people and ask ourselves, are we expecting the wrong things from the right people? Are we voting you as a member of parliament? Then we expect you to build roads for us. Then we have a cabinet which has a ministry of road and a budget to do roads. So that is where we spend our money, wastage, and it becomes a point of a lot of